Welcome everybody to podcast number 311. Do you have an unruly owner's representative? Stay with us.
This is the Elevate Construction Podcast, delivering remarkable content for workers, leaders, and companies in construction wanting to take their next step. Get ready to step out of your comfort zone with Jason Schroeder as he encourages you to do better, live a remarkable life, and expect more. Let's go.
Welcome everybody. I am driving down to Ontario International Airport. You might hear some car noises in the background. I apologize. It is 4 o'clock in the morning here Pacific time. So I'm doing this podcast and I'll upload this when I get to the airport. But that means that I don't have all the same pre-podcast type information here for you, but I do want to say that I hope you're doing well and I hope you're successful. Yesterday, I talked about, I promised that I'd talk about owners' representatives. And from my perspective, we have a great opportunity and we have, some difficulty there sometimes when we go from project to project. So a lot of times, the owner's representatives, most of the time, they'll do a lot of good. And they're right where they should be, and they're doing exactly what they should be doing. Sometimes there's owner's representatives that don't understand concepts of flow, and they only hurt the job. And sometimes there are owner's representatives that do understand concepts of flow. They just have really, really high expectations, and the project team can be a little bit negative about that, even though it's a good thing. And so we're going to talk about all of those concepts today in our podcast. And so, like I said, I hope you're doing well. So the conflict here is that, a job can have every opportunity in the world to be successful. But if it doesn't have a good owner's representative, it's very, very, very difficult. And that's because we have this concept of the customer is always right, meaning no matter what the owner's rep says, we're going to go ahead and do it. We're going to go ahead and take care of it. We're going to adjust that way. But if those ways aren't, if they don't support flow, if they don't support good teaming practices, it can be very, very, very difficult. And the reason is that construction is a very finicky thing. I mean, we're producing something that's in place, it's stationary, and we're producing it with processes, with resources, with workers. And those processes, like I said, are very, very finicky. We can't just plug and play construction operations wherever we are. It's really a belt and suspenders kind of a deal. Meaning, for the most part, we're not just naturally successful. For the most part, it's not easy to go build a construction project, especially with the difficult designs. For the most part, you have to have all of the stars aligned, meaning if somebody was going to say, hey, I want to start my own construction company, it should be fairly easy. Like that's not going to happen, right? If you don't have the operations, the marketing, the quality control, the IT and the owner's representative, the environment, the operational, all of these stars align, then it's not going to go very well. And so if there's an owner's rep that's very difficult and in the way, like I said, you're going to have some trouble. So let's go ahead and talk about a couple of these scenarios here. Let's talk first and foremost in defense of owner's representatives that are really good. They just have high expectations. And I told you, I think it was yesterday, that I have worked for owners reps, or even if they actually worked for the owner, but they're the vice president of construction, or they're the director of construction, or associate or assistant director of construction, or they're a project manager, whatever the case may be. There are some really good ones out there, and I thank God for the ones that have really high expectations. And so, like I said, when I was working for the University of Arizona, Lorna Gray was I think she was the assistant director of construction. she was fantastic, and she had high expectations. The project management systems, the communication systems, the way we ran the job, the expectations of the schedule, how well we communicated, the way we took care of neighbors. She wanted perfection in all of those areas. And there were times, honestly, where I was like, is this even worth it? Like, I feel like I'm doing my best and I'm doing a really good job, but it's just never good enough. And I remember one day she said, let's talk about things in reference to merit badges, Jason. You have the, we want to treat the customer right and treat the neighbor right merit badge. Now we're working on the actually getting it done merit badge. And that was really helpful for me when she distinguished between what I was accomplishing and what we were still yet to accomplish. If it comes across like nothing's good enough, it can be very frustrating. But if it comes across as, hey, you're really doing well here, and here, and hey, we're still working here and here, that can be very doable because human beings need to have wins. But I will say that if I was to go to work at Intel, or if I was to go to work for certain government agencies, or a really finicky client, or if I was to go to work anywhere, I'm ready because of the way she coached us and the high expectations that she had. And I must say that when a project team gets into a situation like that, what they need to do is ignore their desire for comfort and stretch into that high level of performance. We really want to go from a mindset of, oh, woe is me, this is really difficult, oh my gosh, they're always complaining, oh, this is bad, this is tough, from a situation like that or a mental state like that, and go into I can do this, I can expand, I can grow, I can do better, I can see things like my customer sees them, as long as they're all reasonable. And I can say the reason I can mention her name and the University of Arizona is, and I hope the ASU folks don't get mad at me, but is because it made us better, and they were very, very reasonable. They were reasonable, and I was very happy with the fact that she made me better. Now let's talk about the owner's representative that may or may not have a good general contracting team, but they are doing things that are very, very counterproductive. Let me tell you just some of the things that I've seen as I go around and visit projects and visit companies and visit different regions. There's the job where the team wants to do the right thing. They want to get the training. They want to create flow. But the owner's representative is really sympathy voting the designers. And if you're a designer out there, please don't get mad at me, but really sympathy voting the designers. And they're not getting things on time. They're holding up the general contractor. They're not getting answers on time. And they're generally holding up operations in the field and not creating more flow by preventing the problems. And that is very detrimental and destructive. Usually these same owners' representatives will say things like, we really need to be working in every area in the building. You need to get more people and more manpower out there. I want to see some busyness. You need to go ahead and push this through and adjust this design change or this owner change order or this delay in owner furnished equipment. And I don't care how you get it done, that's your job. And they will say things that are counterintuitive to flow. And so I've gone to jobs before and said, hey, well, what we need to do is stabilize these dates. We need to get crews flowing in a consistent and stable and rhythmic direction and in a rhythmic and consistent way. And the construction team will say, well, the owner won't let us. They want to have people working in every single area. Or the owner has a relationship with the trade partners and they are directly one-on-one telling the trade partners what to do and where to go and how to be and what to bid, and creating variation in the overall system. Now, these owners our representatives can be very, very detrimental because they have a couple of key things on their end that incentivize this kind of behavior. Now we have to go back a little bit. The owner, and I want to make sure that everyone's really clear about this. The owner, most of the time, has very little incentive in you doing well and in creating transparent situations. Meaning that if the owner has decided to play savior with the designer, if the owner has decided to play savior with their people and not hold them accountable to getting owner furnished equipment there on time, if the owner has decided to play savior with their facilities reps, their doctors, their nurses, their whoever, their end users, and not have them get the general contractor information there on time, then they do not benefit from a transparent construction project. They do not benefit from a transparent project. They do not benefit from a transparent schedule. Why? Because they want the contractor and the trade partners, or in this case, they're treating them like subcontractors, they want them to have all of the risk. And when things go bad, does an owner want everyone else to know what the story is, what the score of the game is? No. What they want is they want that hidden in a P6 schedule, and the owner's lawyers can either prove that the P6 schedule was and what went wrong, or the Microsoft project schedule. I'll talk mostly about P6 because it's a true database with all the data, right? So they can prove that the delays were the contractor's fault, or if the contractor has kept good notes, they can get the right consultant to prove that the schedule is wrong and that it isn't accurately showing the data and that it can be dismissed, right? So like either way they've got you. It depends on who has the best lawyers. And they would rather just have it hidden in that schedule. Like there's just no really good way to win in that situation. And they're incentivized to have it hidden. So if somebody comes along and says, hey, I want to show a really nice tact plan, I want to show a really nice schedule, and I want to bring roadblocks to the surface and show what's going on, bad owners representatives are not going to want to see that. And they're not going to want to talk about that. And they're going to fly off the handle and start blaming you as the contractor for every little thing in defense of them possibly being shown that part of this is their fault. Okay, so that's what we're dealing with here. The other thing is their people, usually their bosses, their higher ups, their presidents of their companies, the people that they represent, the end customers, they want that owner's representative to show care by being busy. So regardless of who's spending the money, and most of the time it's the contractor and the trade partners, or in this case the subcontractors, the owner's rep gets their kicks off, or they get significance, or they get a feeling of, hey, we're doing our best if the contractor is very, very busy. And we all know that busyness is waste. If you go to some of the best tax projects with the best operational control, they're not overly busy. They don't have a lot of people there. They have smaller worker counts than other projects. And the reason is because they're in a flow. And so going out there to their project, a bad owner's representative, an unreasonable owner's representative will be like, there's an empty area over here. Why aren't people working? What's going on here? Why don't I have twice as many people on the crew? And the problem is they don't know what they're doing. They don't know the concepts around flow and production. They don't know lean concepts, and they don't know how to build projects. And so they'll tell the general contractor, go get more people, go work in more areas, go faster, start pushing contractors, don't care how you need to get it done. And they'll be very disappointed with how the field is going because they want to look busy. You know, when we were kids, if we made a mess and spilled something, our parents wouldn't be too mad if we rushed to go get a paper towel, if we rushed to go get the Windex, if we rushed rush, 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 and we look busy, because when we look busy, we look like we care. So a lot of times that can be very detrimental. And the other thing is owners representatives will tell contractors to do that because looking busy helps them to look good in front of their people, and it expends a lot of money, but most of the time it doesn't expend their money because the information is hidden in a piece of schedule and nobody can go data mine that stuff and actually make a case. They've got you either way. So most of the time, even if they do settle, it's a lot more palatable to them than holding their designers and their stakeholders accountable to getting the information and performing on time. So these are some key considerations that we have to understand. The other thing is, if you have owners representatives where people aren't performing, it's going to delay the job, and the owner's rep will probably just expect you to absorb that variation. And they don't realize the detrimental effects of variation and restarts on a project. And so if there's a change order or a delay or a reroute or a resequencing of something, they're like, hey, this is what I pay you for to deal with this, not realizing the detrimental effect of that variation in those restarts and what it does to the production system and what it does to the project to start crash landing that project. I mean, one of the worst things that you can do is get a project team out of balance to where they're focused on the wrong things and they're doing the wrong things, and it's going to spiral, it's going to snowball, it's going to have a domino effect. Let me give you an example. So there's a couple of PMs. I'm not going to tell you what organization they work for, but they just love their paperwork, and they think they're doing a good service to their bosses and their organization by denying pay applications, by being difficult about inventory, by being very difficult about information and slowing down the process of receiving answers to RFIs, by slowing down the submittal process, and by holding up the project managers and project engineers in meetings, talking about things to the nth degree and rejecting paperwork. They're not creating throughput, they're creating bureaucracy, and they're creating restarts, and they think, again, they're doing their employers a service by doing this because it looks busy and they look like they care, and it's all a show. It's all a show. But what they're doing is they're taking the PMs and the project engineers away from what they should be doing, which is getting procurement, getting materials, getting information to that project site in a flow to support the field. And then when things start to snowball, they're like, you're not doing your job. We have a problem with this. We have a problem with this. We have the problem with this. And they didn't realize that they should be creating flow. They should be creating or decreasing the throughput time, but increasing the rate of throughput. They should be increasing throughput of communication and information through the project site, to the project team, to the field, to enable the project. And I can't I can't number how many times the owner's reps are acting like this, and they're actually slowing the project because they're overburdening the project team and reducing their capacity to actually support the field and get what they need to get done. It's very, very, very detrimental. And so the other thing is they'll leverage change orders, and they'll be like, so in the contract language in the prem agreement, it says you cannot bid extra GCs for these change orders. Well, that's kind of silly. As a general rule, maybe, but it should be negotiable. If you have 30% of the overall project in change orders, and you don't think you need additional help from a construction administration standpoint, that can be very, very detrimental. And so those types of owners representatives that don't care, or they either don't care about the variation they're creating, or they don't realize that variation is a real thing, and that the happiness, morale, and capacity and balance of the team is the first and foremost consideration of any successful construction project, then you're in for a real difficult road, a real difficult situation. Now, I've given you a couple of scenarios, and there's others. There's a lot of other scenarios that we're dealing with. There's either the owner's representatives that are fantastic and reasonable, will have high expectations. I love those. There's the unreasonable owner's representatives that want everything and they really only care about their career. And if you don't find a way to fix that or to rein it in, you're going to be in for some trouble. And then there's hands-off owner's representatives. And if you have a hands-off owner's rep, then you need to be on point. And you, as the super or the PM, need to be the productively paranoid person on the project site and not just sympathy vote everybody and let people know, off the hook or do whatever they want. Okay, so those are the main things. Now, do I have advice? It would probably be foolish of me to give advice in these situations because I don't know your specific situation. But you have to do one of two things. You have to get into that job and just take control and just have it run so well that they're out of your business, which is what I prefer. Or you have to stand up to your owner's rep and you have to do the right thing. And hopefully they don't just kick you off the job. Now, I heard of a job just the other day where they're starting to do great things. They're running the project well. They're stabilizing things. They're getting it done. They're interfacing well with the owner. And the owner, as soon as somebody tells him a bit of truth, he throws somebody off the job. Man, I don't know how these types of people get into high places. It's absolutely ridiculous. I don't know what satanic human being promoted people like that. But I know this team and they're a good team, and there was no reason for that owner's rep to kick them off the job. It's absolutely just ridiculous. So you have to so in that situation, we just needed to have gone into the project and taken care of business and gotten to all of these issues before they ever became a problem and the owner was even involved. If you do have an owner where they can take some healthy conflict and some feedback, then you need to stand up to them in a respectful way, find a win-win, and push back on some of these concepts and just get business done. Either way, it has to be dealt with. So I don't have a magic secret formula on how to get this done. What I'm saying is, however you do it, it has to be dealt with, or you're going to end up in trouble. Now, there are certain owners reps that just, like I said, they don't care if they tank the job. They don't care about you. They don't care about your money. They don't care about your difficulty. In fact, the longer you are in a fight with them, it protects their job, right? But I have to say, for everyone else, the majority of everyone else, they don't expect you to fail based on just what they're saying. If you're not performing, they're just grasping at straws trying to help you. So at the end of the day, 80%, most of the owners reps out there just want you to figure it out and be successful. But they hired you as a contractor to get it done with your expertise. And most of the time when you're listening to their advice and doing it their way, you're doing it wrong because you're paid to do it right. Meaning if they say, hey, go double your crew size over there and start pushing contractors on top of each other and start working overtime instead of creating flow as your first default, and you do that, and you go blow $200,000 or $400,000 and slow down the project, at the end of the day, you can't be like, well, you told me to do it. You told me to go do that. Or maybe you can, but really it's, you should have known how to do this right. And we, as the owner's rep, we're just telling you to get going and giving you from us our best guess. And so I really, really think you should think about every decision you make based on what you're hearing from your owner's rep. At the end of the day, you're responsible, you're in the seat, you need to get it done, it's your contract, you are paid to do this, and you need to implement lean concepts of flow, and really achieve good production in the right way, according to the right philosophies. And so that's what I would say is we really need to make sure that we're on the same page with these concepts. So I hope this has been helpful. The takeaway from me, and I'll just summarize it like this: do not underappreciate an owner that is reasonable but has high expectations. And do not underestimate the destructive nature of an owner's rep that is unreasonable. And do not let them tell you what to do if you know what's right. And make sure that you're playing the game in a way where your team can come out on the other side with a win, and always look for the win-win. Those are my takeaways from this episode. At the end of the day, we're just, like a pinball in a pinball machine, getting ricocheted from left to right all over the place in situations that are unwinnable, when we really need to just take control, and we really need to make better decisions, and we really need to understand that at the end of the day, it's not a, hey, I told you so, or, they're affecting me. It's a, we need to get in there and take charge and fix this job. And so the challenge is, get in there, be the leader, get it done, and prevent situations from ever even getting to the point where the owner feels like they need to step in and be involved. And like I said, really appreciate the owner's reps that know what they're doing, that are reasonable, but have high expectations. On we go.
Please join us next time in elevating the entire construction experience for workers, leaders, and companies coast to coast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to share with your construction colleagues and help us spread the word by rating, subscribing, and leaving a review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate it. We'll catch you next time on the Elevate Construction Podcast.